Sahieh Eal-Bukhari 601 narrated Abdullah bin Umar, the Prophet, prayed one of the Isha prayer in his last days, and after finishing it with Tislam, he stood up and said, "Do you realize the importance of this night? Nobody present on the surface of the earth tonight would be living after the completion of 100 years from this night." The people made a mistake in grasping the meaning of this statement of Allah's Messenger, and they indulged in those things which are said about these narrators. That is, some said that the day of resurrection will be established after 100 years, etc. But the Prophet said, "Nobody present on the surface of earth tonight would be living after the completion of 100 years from this night." He meant when that century, people of that century, would pass away. Sahieh Eal-Bukhari 602 narrated Abu Uthman, Abdurrahman bin Abi Bakr said, "The Suffolk companions were poor people, and the Prophet said, 'Whoever has food for 2 persons should take a third one from them,' Suffolk companions. 'And whosoever has food for 4 persons, he should take 1 or 2 from them.' Abu Bakr took 3 men and the Prophet took 10 of them." Abdurrahman added, "My father, my mother and I were there in the house." The sub-narrator is in doubt whether Abdurrahman also said, "My wife and our servant," who was common for both my house and Abu Bakr's house. Abu Bakr took his supper with the Prophet, and remained there till the Isha prayer was offered. Abu Bakr went back and stayed with the Prophet, till the Prophet took his meal, and then Abu Bakr returned to his house after a long portion of the night had passed. Abu Bakr's wife said, "What detained you from your guests, or guest?" He said, "Have you not served them yet?" She said, "They refused to eat until you come." The food was served for them, but they refused. Abdurrahman added, "I went away and hid myself, being afraid of Abu Bakr, and in the meantime he, Abu Bakr, called me, 'O Gunthar,' a harsh word, and also called me bad names, and abused me, and then said to his family, 'Eat. No welcome for you.' Then the supper was served. Abu Bakr took an oath that he would not eat that food." The narrator added, "By Allah, whenever any one of us, myself and the guests of Suffolk companions, took anything from the food, it increased from underneath. We all ate to our fill, and the food was more than it was before its serving." Abu Bakr looked at it, the food, and found it as it was before serving, or even more than that. He addressed his wife, saying, "O the sister of Bani Firaz, what is this?" She said, "Oh, the pleasure of my eyes. The food was now 3 times more than it was before." Abu Bakr ate from it, and said, "That oath was from Satan," meaning his oath not to eat. Then he again took a mouthful from it, and then took the rest of it to the Prophet. So that meal was with the Prophet. There was a treaty between us and some people, and when the period of that treaty had elapsed, the Prophet divided us into 12 groups, the Prophet's companions, each being headed by a man. Allah knows how many men were under the command of each leader. So all of them, 12 groups of men, ate of that meal. Sahieh Eal-Bukhari 603 narrated Anas, the people mentioned the fire and the bell. They suggested those as signals to indicate the starting of prayers, and by that they mentioned the Jews and the Christians. Then Bilal was ordered to pronounce Adhan for the prayer by saying its wordings twice, and for the Iqama, the call for the actual standing for the prayers in rows, by saying its wordings once. Iqama is pronounced when the people are ready for the prayer. Sahieh Eal-Bukhari 604 narrated Ibn Umar, when the Muslims arrived at Medina, they used to assemble for the prayer, and used to guess the time for it. During those days, the practice of Adhan for the prayers had not been introduced yet. Once they discussed this problem regarding the call for prayer. Some people suggested the use of a bell like the Christians, others proposed a trumpet like the horn used by the Jews, but Umar was the first to suggest that a man should call the people for the prayer. So Allah's Messenger ordered Bilal to get up and pronounce the Adhan for prayers. Sahieh Eal-Bukhari 605 narrated Anas, Bilal was ordered to repeat the wording of the Adhan for prayers twice, and to pronounce the wording of the Iqama once except Qad Qamat as-Salat. Sahieh Eal-Bukhari 606 narrated Anas bin Malik, when the number of Muslims increased, they discussed the question as to how to know the time for the prayer by some familiar means. Some suggested that a fire be lit at the time of the prayer, and others put forward the proposal to ring the bell. Bilal was ordered to pronounce the wording of Adhan twice and of the Iqama once only. Sahieh Eal-Bukhari 607 narrated Abu Kilaba, Anas said, Bilal was ordered to pronounce the wording of Adhan twice and the Iqamah once only. The sub-narrator Ismail said, I mentioned that to Ayub and he added to that, except Iqamah, that is Qad Qamat as-Salat, which should be said twice. Sahieh Eal-Bukhari 608 narrated Abu Hurairah, Allah's Messenger, said, when the Adhan is pronounced, Satan takes to his heels and passes wind with noise during his flight in order not to hear the Adhan. When the Adhan is completed, he comes back and again takes to his heels. When the Iqamah is pronounced and after its completion he returns again till he whispers into the heart of the person to divert his attention from his prayer and makes him remember things which he does not recall to his mind before the prayer, and that causes him to forget how much he has prayed. Sahieh Eal-Bukhari 609 narrated Abdurrahman, Abu Sayyid al-Khudri told my father, I see you lacking sheep in the wilderness. So whenever you are with your sheep or in the wilderness and you want to pronounce Adhan for the prayer, raise your voice in doing so, for whoever hears the Adhan, whether a human being, a jinn or any other creature, will be a witness for you on the day of resurrection. Abu Sayyid added, I heard it, this narration from Allah's Messenger. Sahieh Eal-Bukhari 610 narrated Humayd, Anas bin Malik said, whenever the Prophet went out with us to fight in Allah's cause against any nation, he never allowed us to attack till morning, and he would wait and see. If he heard Adhan he would postpone the attack, and if he did not hear Adhan he would attack them. Anas added, we reached Kabar at night, and in the morning when he did not hear the Adhan for the prayer, he, the Prophet, rode and I rode behind Abi Talha and my foot was touching that of the Prophet. The inhabitants of Kabar came out with their baskets and spades, and when they saw the Prophet, they shouted Muhammad. By Allah, Muhammad and his army. When Allah's Messenger saw them, he said, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Kabar is ruined. Whenever we approach a hostile nation to fight, then evil will be the morning of those who have been warned.